Hello and welcome again to Fake News, fighting against knowledge extinction. It's been a while, hasn't it, my good man Tom Hand?
Hello, Ross. It's been a hot minute, as they would say.
So the subject we're going to be talking about today is populism. If you can't really understand a lot of what's going on in the world, say for instance Brexit, it's exceedingly hard to understand the whole inner workings. We thought we might as well understand the political ideology that's behind it and other actions we're seeing in the world.
Well, it's a word that's chucked around now, isn't it? Populism. You hear it with Brexit and Trump mainly.
Yeah.
But there are loads of movements. I mean, you alluded to it a second ago. Marie Le Pen in France, another kind of someone. What's the term? Riding the populism wave.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in history, some people have said that FDR, Hitler was a populist. So instantly from that, you're thinking, okay, this doesn't necessarily mean right wing, which a lot of people would think it's right wing, but it can also mean left wing. So in the most recent presidential election, we had Bernie Sanders on the left, who was claimed as populist, and we had Donald Trump on the right. So this is obviously, you would think, absolutely ridiculous that these two opposing things. So what they share in common is a basic idea of dividing people between the people, aka the working class, the average man, versus, say, the elite. So for Bernie Sanders, that was Wall Street, that was fat cap bankers, and obviously a big populist movement we saw, if we look at the left wing, is Occupy Wall Street. And then on the right wing, it's also kind of the elite, so it's the federal bank, it's kind of the liberals, the welfare state. They're trying to take away our guns, they're trying to take, Obamacare, they're trying to take away your hard-earned taxpayers' money.
Yeah, but then that's what Trump was going on that as well, because Trump was pandering very much so to the working man, wasn't he?
Yeah, and
so I mean, because obviously, by its definition, populist is pandering to the ordinary people, the popular vote. Yeah. So why? I mean, surely they're both riding that wave, then, both left and right. There's no kind of it transcends parties, isn't it?
It's I would say it's more than anything a tactic, because what you often see is, you see the idea, we're not your typical politician. I will be here, I'll speak the truth, I'll say words that you wouldn't necessarily hear, because it's the idea, we don't want politics normal, we don't want bureaucracy, we don't want people telling us what to do, because it's often a sign of people are finding trouble with the times. Stuff's not working, so what do we want? We want to completely rip up the script and get something different from business as usual.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is why, again, and that is why someone like Trump won, because it was something so different. This was a man who wasn't a politician. This was a man who literally said it how it was. He said what Joe Blogg says, sat at home watching TV.
But also,
as he thinks, I mean, I doubt Joe Blogg says, some of the stuff that
grab him by the pussy.
Grab him by the pussy. But, things like that. He was saying what the average man was saying, and
self-funded.
Say he is multi-millionaire as well. Yeah. But, it was that thing of just speaking from the heart. And, I had this point, I mean, I don't know what you think of this, but I always say this in reference to Trump, as populism, we have to talk about Trump. He's only the 45th president, which means that only 44 people have gone before him, and that's not a lot of people, Quick maths. It was a hard equation. Maybe by the time, and if global warming hasn't wiped us out, or nuclear warfare, if by the time we have the 145th president, maybe we would have worked out governance in a more efficient and effective way that genuinely helps people. And now what you have, in terms of populism, I suppose populism breeds caricatures. So now what we have in politics, both, if we look domestically, I'd say the obvious one's Boris Johnson, someone who's just a caricature, and obviously Trump in America, but someone that is just like a character. They're made up, these over, these huge personalities, too much to say ridiculous things, and just over the top. And it's kind of, when are we going to have someone ruling who's a normal person? Because we don't have that. They're all kind of power-hungry freaks.
Well, I'm glad you actually brought up global warming then, because a lot of the big problem with populism, a lot of people think, is long-term versus short-term plans. So a lot of people thinking, like you're saying, with the character and all this stuff, it works if you want to get votes. Let's say that it wants to get votes. But for long-term views, it's like, what is your main objectives? Because it's always against something. So a big thing we have, say, in Germany, we've seen a rise in the right wing because Angela Merkel's policy, open door policy for refugees from the refugee crisis, that's flipped us on its head. People are angry about this. And so the populist leader will be anti-immigration. So it's this counter, but what are their own policies? It's always counter, but what do you want to go on your own way?
It's true. And so from what you're saying there, I think, we all know this anyway, but the media and politics go completely hand in hand. When you say there that the populist thing to say maybe would be, stop immigration, sort your borders out, stop letting people in, that's because the media, particularly White Ring, aka right-wing media outlets,
or social media, as we saw.
I literally just said White Ring. Yeah, or social media. But and people are being told that. We always knew that media and politics go hand in hand, but the correlation is so unbelievably clear, and the power the media have, and now with social media as well, the power they have is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and so we focused a lot on Donald Trump. You mentioned it because obviously probably he's the most obvious example.
It's hard not to speak about him.
It's sweeping Europe, actually. We're seeing a lot, obviously. Yeah. We saw Marine Le Pen. Most recently we saw the Paris. I want to call them riots. Yeah. But,
well, look, we had a chat about that yesterday. It's kind of it's called the high vis protest, but look, it's to do with fuel taxes that Macron has introduced. But people are saying it's just a catalyst for a lot of unrest in France because Macron, who came to power as quite a forward-thinking, young bloke, 39, I believe.
Yeah, very young.
Married his teacher, fun fact.
Yep.
But quite a young bloke who's going to bring France into the 22nd century. I suppose it is good for the environment. You mentioned global warming a minute ago. The fuel tax is a good thing, I suppose. It's meant to be a good thing, but at the same time, this unrest is not just to do with that. People are pissed off, and I've even heard people talk about a civil war in France. People are getting very serious about it.
I've heard a lot of people talking about civil wars like America and all this, East Coast, West Coast, but it's because it's this idea that these high-flung political ideas, they say, oh, you're raising money for global warming. I'm a working class person. I need to feed my family, and you don't know what it's like because you're just the elite, and
the Parisian elite.
Like we saw with the revolution. They're like, oh, what are you saying? Let us eat cake or something. It's.
But the people who are most pissed off by that, and it's funny you mentioned that, are the people who live in the countryside who are quite poor in France, and they're saying, I need my car. Why should I be taxed more on my fuel? I can't afford a lovely green car which causes no harm to the environment. Why should I have to pay more? And I suppose that's where it's born from. But it's an interesting idea. And this is where the class divide is a huge, huge problem, because someone like Macron and his Parisian friends would have no idea what it's like to live in a remote countryside where you need a car and to have not being able to afford to pay this added tax now.
Well, there was also the thing with the difference between Obama and Trump, because Obama, he was like the liberal darling, because every year he'd come out with a reading list for people to read. And all this. And now there's a massive flip against experts and like the intelligista.
It's like, who are you
what
to tell me?
We work hard and we're well-meaning, but we haven't talked so much, if we're talking about divide, with Brexit. So we've seen, urban areas such as London, we are in our little isolated bubble of multiculturalism, whereas majority outside of London or outside of the major city centres, we saw those being voted leave.
I mean, look, it's media again, it's tribalism, it's this is our country, please don't
rise of nationalism.
Retrotopia, rise of nationalism, and that is so prevalent now. Like even on kind of social media, like I always pay a lot of attention to comments, and I've always said that in our podcast. I always pay attention to comments because you do get a general vibe of what the general man or woman is thinking. You read, for example, let's say, I don't know, the Lad Bible. I think it's a piece of crap, but I don't really take it.
Keep your opinions to yourself, sir.
They have occasional. We don't want
them coming after us.
I love the Lad Bible. No, but I mean, they have occasional funny things on Facebook. But the comments are so unbelievably right wing, and they are generally from white men aged 16 to 24, 25, and they're always extremely right-wing, anti-immigration, anti-gay, anti-LGBT. If there's ever a story about rise of racism. And look, it's really interesting because that is a certain group of people who feel so disassociated and are very, I'm sorry to say, I think anyway, very easily influenced by media outlets and personality. So now you've got, and I'd have a colleague, we both have a colleague that would completely disagree with this comment, but I would say people like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, any other right-wing YouTube personality. There are plenty of them. I'm sure you kind of watch some of their stuff.
Yeah.
But they almost do serve, and mate,
I wouldn't say
feel free to argue back.
I wouldn't say so. I've never really seen the.
But they definitely lean more towards.
Yes,
right?
they have aspects of
but
it.
Then
yes,
I think they do serve, and I've read this somewhere. I'm not going to claim this as my own words, but I think they are kind of internet daddies for disengaged young men who kind of who look up to strong-willed older men who aren't afraid to speak their minds, quote unquote, even if it does cause offence. And this, and it's totally against this offence. This what's it called now? What time are we living in? The outrage, offensive outrage, whatever it's called.
I think we need to steer clear of that rabbit hole we could easily fall down if we talk about that, and let's get back on track with.
No, but I mean, it's all populism though. I suppose it all goes hand in hand. It's all quite related, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. So, what would you think are the main subjects that are triggered by populism? So we've got immigration. It's normally kind of taxation.
Yeah. See, there was so if we're talking about populism, let's say, would you call let's say the march we went to, the anti-Trump march?
Yeah.
Was that a populist movement? Because there was like 700,000 people on the streets, I
would say that's more a response to an already a protest for a protest, because the Trump was a protest.
Doesn't it?
It does get very tough. It's and do you think? I think it was a protest against protests. So that it's a quagmire. Because then it's like maybe the populist left fighting against the populist right. I'm not sure, but
surely that is populism, though, isn't it? Because in amongst and let's be. This might sound I'm not. That's too bad to say, because this is why I hate people who put tags on things. But it generally is maybe people who have gone to university, people who have professional jobs, who would lean more towards the left. And I don't think that's offensive saying that. I think that's a point there. So I
think there's actually some probably some economic data on that.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
You're kind of professional, middle class, educated,
urbanite.
Parents who would be on that protest. A more kind of upmarket against Trump. Who you could maybe step back and say, that person knows a lot about politics and has been around for a while, who could kind of see what is happening now. Whereas, let's say the pro-Trump march would be more young white men, maybe, who haven't gone to uni.
I was on the this weekend just gone. I was actually at the kind of pro-Brexit march, and it turned into a kind of pro-UKIP because Tommy Robinson was there. And it turned into that way, and it was funny the different rhetoric they used for the different things they were discussing.
Yeah.
So it was very much a nationalist setting, and you saw one of those YouTube guys, Sargon or something.
Yeah.
And it was funny because his was more a mockery, and you see this rise in these younger political people who are kind of trolling, but you don't know. It's very unclear the line, but you got a lot of sincere people who were very much did seem working class. I'd say we had the majority there who were working class.
Yeah.
And a lot of older people.
What's the data on that? So what is appealing to the working class? Let's strip it back. What's appealing to them about a populist personality coming up and saying, no more immigration, no more men pretending to be women? I use quotation marks saying that because that's, a kind of idea that people would have, because they're confused about the whole kind of trans movement. I mean, why does that appeal to largely young white working class men? Like, why does that idea appeal to them of this retrotopia, this conservative attitude? Let's keep things how they were.
Yeah, I think I would say it's to do with the failures of globalization. So, for instance, say you're in America, and let's say you're early middle age, so late 30s, 40s, and say you're having a family, you're living in your hometown, you always have. And you're working a job, and you're working, say, 3 jobs, and your wife's working 3 jobs to keep a roof over your house and your kids fed, because you might not have had college education, because college education costs an absolute fortune. You might not have got a scholarship because you weren't athletically gifted. So you're in your hometown, you're working hard, and you're working 3 jobs, your wife's working 3 jobs. But you can remember, say, a time when your dad worked 1 job, could support 3 kids, your mum, white picket fence, etc. And that's all because they mostly stripped out, say, he might have worked in an industrial plant or kind of secondary secondary sector of the economy, so production or something like that, or say maybe there was a General Motors factory and he worked in that, and it's not like today with the gig economy. Thank you very much. It was, you had your pension, you were paid yearly, and that has been because of globalization. These fat cat corporations have gone, actually we can make cheaper money if we outstrip that to say China, or we send it over to Mexico because people work for less, and so we'll get more profits. So instantly these people are saying, well, you've made my life worse compared to what it is. Yeah. And that's the other elite, these fat cats who, you say, and also Trump's economic approaches, like, let's make America great again, bring the economy back to America. So you can understand, if you were in that situation, you would feel a sense of... You would,
but then at the same time, so what always interests me, so that's a point, and I completely agree with that point, but what I can never, ever wrap my head around is how people like Donald Trump, who we've mentioned quite a few times in this podcast, who has never, ever, ever known what it's like to lose a job because of, as you say, globalization. He's never had to live on the breadline. He's never really had to struggle. Of course, he's got his famous, my dad lent me a small loan of $1 million. He's never known what it's like to live in the real working class world. And domestically, people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who I find fascinating, he's appealed to the working class. The guy, I mentioned caricatures earlier, the guy is from an 1820s fucking magazine, in his waistcoat and top hat. You think, and Nigel Farage as well. These people have appealed to the working class, and you think, maybe it's like fucking Usual Suspects. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled to convince the world didn't exist. The greatest trick that these people in the higher echelons of society, like Rees-Mogg, Nigel Farage in America, Donald Trump, have done is convince the working class that they are like them, that their interests are the same as theirs, because they're not, mate.
Do you think it, to a certain extent, and just bear with me on this, they don't really give a fuck? As in, they're an outsider and they like what they're saying. It more than anything, there's a protest vote. These people, it doesn't matter if they're, he looks like he's kind of Downton Abbey's creepy uncle. He's like, I don't want business to be... I don't want business as usual. I want to flip the script. Yeah. And we're going to... Hold on, we're taking back our country. That sort of thing where you go, you know what? I'm just so sick of the way things are. This is the only guy who's saying the alternative. He's got a little top hat and stuff like this. And you just go, you know what? I'll do it. And Trump... I've heard people who kind of went down that route, and other people who said, well, he was given $1 million, but he's a millionaire and he's working hard. And it's a tricky one if we delve too deeply
just
into
relatability, isn't it? Like, I can relate to that guy, therefore I would like to see him run the country.
Well, that's normal politics. That's normal politics.
But I don't know how you can relate to someone who you literally have, and this is why, mate, I am a fan of Corbyn. Think I'm not in the slightest like a mad liberal lefty, but I think Corbyn is the most, because of relatability, I think he's the most relatable person in the House of Parliament at the moment. Obviously, a front bencher I'm talking about,
but he's also an element of populism.
Yes, of course he is. Of course he is. Yeah. And this is why. Sorry, back to populism. Yeah. It's such a broad term because it literally, mate. Everyone now is a fucking populist character.
I just like the term. I hate isms.
Isms.
I really hate isms.
Popularism.
And you know what's funny? I think it's almost a paradox because populism in itself, the ideology, hates all these isms. Yeah. It hates, this is, you got to be politicalism, you got to be this. It's like, what, you could just go... And also, I heard something... The term can also be used in a loaded way. Yeah. So, for instance, if you're on the right and you're a populist, the left might see and go, mob rule, idiot. They're racist, all this stuff. And if you're the left, looking at the left, it's democracy in action. Yeah. On the right, if you're on the left and you look at people on the right, democracy in crisis. Yeah. So it is a very loaded term, and I would say more than anything, whenever I've heard populism, I've heard it referred to the right wing.
Yeah. But that's just the day we live. That's the day and age we live in, isn't it?
Well, speaking of the day and age we live in, Tom, it's now the night, and I think we've got to pack up for the day. Thank you for listening to Fake News. Back again. And yeah, we're hoping to.
Please comment, like, share if you enjoyed it. If you thought it was shit, don't hesitate to tell us.
Yeah, tell us. But we've sorted out our RSS feed. There's a lot of tech. We got there. We sorted out. We had our issues with SoundCloud. Yeah. We stopped beefing. We've done some web searching.
We laid down our weapons with SoundCloud.
We laid down our weapons.
It was getting a bit heavy, wasn't it, at one point?
Yeah. So, but we, the beef's over.
Beef is over.
The beef's over. We're vegetarians and we're back at it. Okay.
We're back at it.
Thank you. Fight the power.